Today we bring to you a recap of a 2000 science fiction film titled Mission to Mars. A party is thrown for all the astronauts leaving for Mars. Nicholas is trying to get laid one last time before leaving. Woody and Terry are the only married couple on the mission. Sergey and Renee are foreigners. Phil and Luke are there as well. Luke is waiting for Jim when his wife tells her to talk to Bobby, their son. Luke goes to him and tells him that they will read the same book, and that way they can read the book together even from afar. Jim arrives and is welcomed by everyone there. After the party, Jim, Luke, and Woody are talking when a woman named Maggie is mentioned, who is Jim's deceased wife and former astronaut. They wish to go to Mars together and worked their entire lives for it till she fell ill and passed away. Jim plays cool, but when everyone leaves, he is actually upset. 13 months later, Nick, Luke, Sergey, and Renee have reached Mars. One of their rovers detects a large mountain, and on top of it, they can see something shiny, which they presume to be ice. They send a message to Woody, Terry, Phil, and Jim, who are all at the World Space Station. They tell them that they will be exploring the mountain. When they approach the mountain, they detect a strange signal in their headsets. They use special radar to study it and get to know that the mountain is metal underneath the dust. Luke tells everyone that it must be a mistake and advises them to move closer and increase the power of the radar. When they do so, an energy signal from the mountain makes all the instruments stop working. A giant tornado appears and kills the team except for Luke, who survives to witness a giant face appear where the mountain was before. At the World Space Station, the signal from Mars has been detected and an emergency meeting is called because all communication is lost with the team. A very blurry video message is received from injured Luke, telling everyone that something attacked them and he's the only one alive. Woody tries to convince the captain of the World Space Station to send a rescue team to Mars, but he isn't willing to do that because of the loss of communication. But he agrees after Phil says that they can use a Saturn probe that is near Mars. Woody says that Jim should be the one flying the ship as he has the most experience, and also he is the one who designed the missions. Captain agrees after a bit of hesitation. Many months later, Jim, Woody, Terry, and Phil are approaching Mars. Phil makes a DNA model out of candies, but Jim arrives and eats some. Woody says that the Saturn probe will be traveling near Mars in a few hours, and it will give them the info they need to land. An image from the probe shows 3 graves near the base camp of the previous team. Phil thinks that Luke might be alive, but Terry tells him that there is no one left to bury him. They look at the site where the signal came from, and it is still emitting an energy signal. They think that it might be a problem in the probe. Just then, tiny meteoroids hit the ship and create holes, causing air to leak. Woody seals up the holes with the help of the team, but they don't notice the hole in the fuel tanks. As they enter the atmosphere and fire the engine, fuel leaks out and causes an explosion. All of them must leave the ship to survive and thus are stranded. They don't have enough fuel in their jetpacks to reach the refueling module. But Woody tries a very daring maneuver with a grappling gun, which gives others a chance to survive. But because of it, he is left stranded in space with no fuel left in his jetpack. Terry says that they must rescue him, but Jim knows that they can't do so. Terry tries to rescue him anyway, but Woody stops her, telling her that she must reach the refueling module. She shoots a wire towards him, but it is just a bit short to reach him. She says that she will try again after getting a little closer. Realizing that she will kill herself trying to save him, Woody removes his helmet to stop her, thus sacrificing himself. Jim, Terry, and Phil manage to land the refueling module on Mars. They reach the base camp of the previous mission and find most of the things damaged but repairable. They plan on using it to return to Earth. Jim sees plants growing in the experimental greenhouse, and just then, Luke attacks Jim, trying to kill him, thinking that he is a hallucination. Jim manages to calm him down by mentioning Bobby. Luke tells everyone how he survived for a year on Mars by growing plants. He says that he was spared for a purpose, and that purpose was to figure out the secret. Jim asks what secret he is talking about, and he shows an image of the giant face on Mars. It had been seen before as well, but everyone thought that it must be a mountain. Luke also talks about how the interpretation of the energy signal from it in physical dimensions forms a picture of DNA, meaning that it is a signature or identity declaration from the beings who placed the face there. Terry notices that one pair of chromosomes is missing from the picture, so it cannot be human DNA. Jim spills some candy, and it reminds him of his conversation with Phil back on the ship. He realizes that it is actually a test, not a signature. They want them to fill in the missing pair of chromosomes to prove that they are human. The previous team was attacked, as the waves from the radar were interpreted as a wrong answer. Jim convinces everyone that they must readjust the radar to emit a signal that would correspond to the correct answer to the riddle. Everyone is reluctant, but Jim convinces them by reminding them of the dead and saying they would be dead for nothing if they returned to Earth without fulfilling the mission. They send the radar using a rover to keep themselves safe and emit a signal that would correspond to the answer to the riddle. When the signal is emitted, a doorway opens in the face. Jim, Terry, and Luke decide to go to the face and tell Phil to fix the module and return once he's done, even if they don't come back by then. 3 of them enter the doorway and it closes, thus breaking contact with Phil. Inside, they notice that they can breathe in the ship and take off their masks. They see a 3D model of the solar system, showing Mars as a blue and green planet. It is an animation telling the story of how Mars was hit by a meteor, and the population on Mars fled to different galaxies. A slim red being shows them that one of those Martian ships sent the very first unicellular organisms to Earth, which grew over millions of years into modern-day human beings. That's when they realized that the face was actually a spaceship, and it was an invitation for the humans to meet their Martian ancestors. Just then, contact with Phil is re-established, and he tells them that a storm is coming and that they must leave immediately. Jim decides to stay on the ship as it starts a countdown before taking off. Terry and Luke try to take him with them, but he says that this is what he was born to do, so they let him go. They made it just in time before Phil was about to leave. In the ship, Jim sees water rising and holds his breath, but then he realizes that he can somehow breathe in water. He gets a flashback of his whole life on Earth, his friends, and Maggie. Meanwhile, Phil, Luke, and Terry are leaving the Mars atmosphere. They see Jim's ship pass by them towards a distant galaxy. Luke looks at the spaceship and wishes Jim good luck, knowing that this is exactly what he was destined to do. As always, see you all in the next one.